Hey, Mike Swenson here with Real Freedom, and today we've got a very special guest with us. We have AJ Pettersen, and AJ runs a team locally here in the Twin Cities, and we'll talk a little bit with us about his journey going from starting out in real estate to where he's at today, and ultimately where he's going in the future to be able to achieve financial freedom. So AJ, why don't you say hi and give us a little bit of a background about yourself?
Sweet. Yeah. Thanks for having me, Mike. I'm happy to be on here. So that's a little bit of the, little gist about kind of what I'm about. I started my journey in real estate about 6 years ago. I had just, in terms of, financial talks, I had about $1,200, I think we had in our bank account when I was done playing baseball with the Twins. And we drove home not quite knowing what was next. And I had a friend that had gotten into real estate. So I met with him and said, hey, would I be good at this? And just kind of stumbled into it. And it's kind of led me down this crazy journey of being on a team, and then being an individual agent, then running a team, investing in real estate, and everything in between. So it's been a fun journey to where I am now. From a team perspective, I guess, real estate wise, like you mentioned, I run a team. 4 employees, 9 agents. We'll do about 275 transactions in 2020.
Fantastic. So let's start out first. Let's talk a little bit about the future. So when you think about kind of the end game for you, and we know for everybody, it's not necessarily about hitting the point on the wall. It's about where you can allow yourself the choice to do what you want to do. A lot of real estate agents really love it and they want to work till they die. Some people are excited to be out of the rat race and do something else. But when you think about your future, kind of what does that look like where you have the ability to make the choice of kind of how you spend your time, what you want to do? Is it a specific number? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I'm starting to transition into doing less transactions, starting probably, now really, so that will be reflected in 2021. I'm still probably on pace to do somewhere around 70 transactions in 2020, which for those that have done that many, it's a lot, especially with like probably 45 buyers, which is a pretty big number of people I'm running around at showings. So what I've started to do to get the wheels in motion for just backing myself out of that a little bit is, in the interim, I have a personal assistant now who also is licensed. My transaction coordinator also is licensed. My team, I have an agreement with my team to do to trade off on showings and stuff. So I've increased my bandwidth in that way, but long term, my goal is to continue to support my team and essentially just run the team. Maybe 15 to 20 agents that are super high producing. I got crazy ideas. Like I'd like to have like 15 or 20 agents doing like 40 to 60 transactions a year. That's really my end goal with this. Because I think I can have an impact on that many people, and doing that amount of business would be obviously have a large impact on their lives. So that's the part that I do enjoy about this. And then on the flip side of that, me and my brothers are, along with our wives, building out a somewhat of a rental empire in St. Louis Park. So we're trying to always be increasing that. We currently own 10 properties. So that obviously kicks out a nice amount of dividend payout, if you will, each year. We're very serious about increasing that to be much larger than it currently is today. So, but I'm always like looking for what's next. I love owning a small business. So running a real estate team is really, really fun for me, just to kind of pull levers and navigate things. And then to see the impact it has on the agents on my team.
Yeah. And as we talk about financial freedom, a big part of that is, I really believe that you don't want to go at it alone. You can put your head down and you can sprint for a while. Eventually what's going to happen is you're going to get burnt out. Whether it's either you're going to personally get burnt out, or you're going to leave kind of a path of destruction behind you, and all the relationships that you have, or the rest of your life might get completely off balance. You might be out of health, that kind of stuff, or, just have this chaotic path behind you. So I really believe in the power of leverage, and that's working smarter, not harder, getting more efficient with your time, leverage through people so that you can bring others along you. And that's what I really love about, you can accomplish your vision when you help 15 to 20 other agents do 40 to 60 deals, and they're going to be really excited to be in your world, and you're going to be really, really excited to have them in your world. So you can achieve financial freedom with them and through them. And then also we talk about leverage through different technologies. So do you want to talk a little bit about how you've gained leverage through, primarily people, but also efficiency with your time as you've grown from where you were to where you're at right now?
Yeah, so I talk about that often with our team because I think when I say like I'm going to do 70 to 75 transactions, I've learned every year how to do more sides in less time, and that's been really, really important. And like you said, that's twofold. That's having a transaction coordinator, having a marketing manager, like those things help a lot. My personal assistant, Ryan, that I just added on, like has taken a ton of things off my plate. Like starting to manage emails and things like that. So I can, doing some of the amendments and contracts since he's licensed and doing some of the showings and doing all these sorts of things. So leveraging those people has been massive, and finding the right people, I think, has been really important. I've learned over the years, like how to find the right people. Don't just necessarily like, if you're looking for a transaction coordinator, don't just like hire your best friend just because it'd probably be a dumpster fire, and don't hire people like you, hire people that do things better than you do at different skills. So I use a application. So speaking of, switching that over to technology, instead of, trying hard to network and find some of these full-time positions, I actually use an application called Wise Hire, and it does a DISC assessment along with the application. And so it spits out and says, I know 100 people applied, but here are the 10 you need to talk to, right? And that saved me like so much time hiring for these last two jobs. And then what it also did, when you lose somebody in any of those roles, you lose a lot of time and you lose a lot of money. Like we were without a transaction coordinator for a month. Our business almost dried up because no one knows how to work any of the systems they were doing, and we don't have any backups, and they're doing all this paperwork, and it's just a total disaster. So hiring the right people that you can keep around is like vital. So the people I've had in these roles now, I've had for a little while, and they're getting better at everything too. So that transition from people to systems with Wise Hire and the systems that my employees use to be more efficient. I always believe like a very efficient staff person is going to be happier in their job, and they're going to feel less stressed out because they're more organized. So I'm always talking about like, okay, they feel stressed out and overwhelmed. Well, what did we either gave them too much to do, or we didn't give them the right skills to complete it in less time. So that's what we're always looking at in terms of systems. But yeah, I've got a ton of systems that they're using specifically. Paperless pipeline is a big one that we use for transaction management. Follow-up Boss is our CRM, and that's it houses freaking everything. And it's a great way to communicate from staff to agent. It records phone conversations with leads. It records text messages. You get unique phone numbers. Our sign calls route through it's got literally everything on there. And then we use a couple of other different platforms, and we have some third-party contractors for a couple of different things, tech-based. We have an SEO contractor, and we have a pay-per-click, like Google pay-per-click contractor as well. So we've pared down the number of systems we're using on a daily basis. If all the agents did was go into Follow-Up Boss and work through that, they could accomplish a lot as long as they understand how things are coming and going through the system. So I don't know if that completely answers all of that, but that's from the real estate team side of things. That's I think you kind of, if you're running a team, you get to a point where you're like, okay, we have I'm constantly following Dwight, our transaction coordinator, how many pending sales we have. So he got to 50 pendings, and he's like, I feel fine. I could do a lot more. Then he got to 60, and he's like, I'm still fine. So like we have to realize at some point, like, where does my system break? And then do I either need to fix the system, or do I need to add another person? So you realize you get to like peak efficiency and organization. And once you hit that and you can feel that, then it's like, all right, let's hire Ryan, or let's get another transaction coordinator to handle, be at 20 hours a week to start, and maybe rotate into like a full-time position. So that's all I'm trying to do every day. I'm just trying to figure out like, where is the system breaking down? Do we need to fix the system, or do we need to add more people? Those are the two things that we're, always trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there's a few things that people sometimes overlook. You know, that what I tell people is in real estate, you technically can do it all. You know, if you think about any other business out there, you know, let's just insert another sales job. Let's say it's medical device sales. The person that's doing the medical device sales is also not the person figuring out, you know, how to have the knee replacement, you know. And they're also not doing the billing, they're also not doing the scheduling at the hospital for the surgeries. And yet in real estate, because you can do it all, people tend to think like, oh, I want to learn everything about the business. And what they don't realize is there's a sacrifice. It's a sacrifice of time, and it's a sacrifice of getting to mastery, because you're trying to figure all these things. You're trying to become a master generalist versus a specialist. And for somebody like you realize the value of having great people around you, because you get to do more of what you want to do and what excites you. And then those people get to do more of what they want to do and what excites them, because, you know, a lot of your admin staff probably don't want to be frontline with clients showing houses. You know, there might be a season or they might do that part-time, but it's not the thing that really excites them and energizes them. And so pretty quickly, you've been able to go from playing baseball to now you have a high-performing team in a short period of time. And it's through leverage of systems and through leverage of people and understanding that. And you're not sitting there going, oh, but I want to do this and this and this and this, and I have to have my hand in everything. You're saying, no, I want this person to run with this person to run with this. And that's how you get to mastery faster. And that's how you can build a larger team a lot faster.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the hardest thing for people, like, and it was hard for me too when I got started, is people think that that first staff person is like the hardest one to hire, because you're like, do I need them? What if I end up like not being as busy as I thought I was going to be? I'm not making that much money. Like, how can I afford this? I went part-time to start with somebody until I realized that I needed someone full-time. So that's a tough one. I think on the other side of this, it's like, it's been so much easier for me just to be like, 50 grand for this person. Like, I need this person. Like, that's become easier and easier for me, because I have realized that they aren't overhead. They're like an investment. Like, they're going to return more than I'm paying them. Like, no question. Because I'm able to do higher dollar things, or I'm able to cook dinner for my family more often, or I'm able to be there for bedtime or go for walks in the middle of the day or whatever it is. And so, yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, that's been, I mean, once I hired my first assistant, I went from like 29 to 56 deals in 1 year. And it's like, okay, so 27 transactions right? Like, you do the math on that and you're like, that's like $250,000, $300,000, but I paid a person 50 grand. So like, and was I working a little more? Yeah, probably. But at the end of the day, you're looking at that going, I just got a 6X return because I got one person. That was so simple.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so let's dig in a little bit. So you've got, you know, you had your agent business, you've got your team business, and then another big piece from you is investments. And so I know you had mentioned you had 10 investments. Primarily, you're using the BRRRR strategy. And so do you want to kind of walk through that a little bit? How did you get started on the first one? And then kind of what's your mindset as far as how did that grow to where you're at today?
Yeah. So like you said, we did the BRRRR method literally by dumb luck. Like, I had owned a home in St. Louis Park. I pulled all my own permits for the basement. I pulled my own permits and did all of the electrical, plumbing, HVAC, and like everything for a bathroom in the basement. Mm-hmm. And so I had run-ins with all the city inspectors. I got to know them. Then I did my kitchen. And then that was like right at the time where like, we should think about, like, my brother and I are like, this would be fun just to have own some rental property. I'm like, St. Louis Park seems like it's kind of blowing up. Maybe let's look there. So that was about as complicated as we made it. Like, we just started like making offers on properties. And I'm a big risk taker. My older brother, who was with me at the time on them, isn't as risky as me. So it kind of balanced each other out. We also were both making pretty good money. So that was pretty helpful to fund the whole operation, because the upfront capital investment can kind of be a lot if you're not going to, house hack it and, do a duplex owner occupy or whatever, which we were just buying straight up 20% down rental property. So we buy the first one, not knowing kind of even what the BRRRR strategy is. And how we stumbled into it is I called the agent, who was actually like from Elk River, and he didn't understand the point of sale inspection stuff very well. Because these third ring suburbs, there's no rules, right? And so St. Louis Park, for all who know, is pretty hardcore about their point of sale inspection program. And so the house was on the market, and I went into the basement and I noted that the floor drain was the drain for the shower in the basement. And I'm like, that's an unvented plumbing line, and that is not to code, and it's a finished bathroom, and the previous listing didn't have a bathroom down here. Like, you're going to get killed. So I called the agent. I said, have you had your point of sale inspection yet? And he's like, yeah, no, it's scheduled for Monday. I'm like, they're going to make you rip out the entire bathroom. Yep. And the house is on the market, right? And he's like, no, I don't, that's not going to, I'm like, no, seriously, like, and I'm going to write you an offer, like, for full price, and we'll take that on. We're fine with it, but they're going to make you rip it out. And like 5 hours later, he calls back. I said, we're going to make you a full price offer. Let us know if you get another offer, because we'll probably raise ours. He said, well, we got an offer and we accepted it. They did no inspection, guarantee as is, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, call me back when that dumpster fire falls apart. So sure enough, he calls me back a week later, and he's like, I had 60 people interested in this property, and you're the only one who really knew what you were talking about in terms of like what we were looking at. And I said, yeah, let me just have the city out here so I can talk with all the guys and see what they're making me do. So I had already known all these guys. So I know them by first name. I'm talking to the plumbing inspector, and I'm like, Caleb, what do you think? Like, what am I going to have to do here? He's like, take the floor out here, do this, that, and the other thing. So we just bid the whole thing out and made him an offer. And that's how we got our first property. It was so dumb. And then we self-funded all of the construction. So we're into this thing for like 75, 80 grand. But by the end of it, we're up 50,000 in equity. And so we call our lender. We're like, can we just cash out and get the money out of this? And they're like, yeah, that's something people do. That's a strategy.
It's actually a strategy. And
it's like, there's a thing for this. I was like, oh, cool. So then, I mean, pretty much from there on out, that was what we did. We looked for homes that, for people who know flipping, like, they look for ARV after rehab value, to be at 70%. Like, so they're purchasing all the money they're into it. It has to be at 70% of the future value. And some people go to 75 just because they have the fees of selling it, right? There's like 7 to 10% in fees around trying to get that property resold. So we tried to find homes that weren't that bad or priced that well. We knew that the flippers would be interested in that kind of property. And a lot of that has to happen off market. So when we were first starting, we're just buying stuff on the MLS. So we'd find homes where we could get 80 to 85% maybe. So we'd still make up 15 to 20% of equity. And then at the 6-month mark, we'd do the cash out refinance. And we'd usually be into the property for, I don't know. Once we did the construction loan, so we started rolling out construction loans on them too. So then the bank's paying us to redo them. And then 6 months later, I cash out and I'm only into it for like 20 grand, and it's kicking out, $700, $800, $900 a month. I'm like, I'm making 50% of my money now. So for all the math nerds out there, you probably are following along with all that math, but that's really how we did it. And then we started just rolling. And we were pumping money into it too. And then once you get to, 8 or 9 properties, they're kicking off, I think now, like, probably $75,000 a year. Then you're able to buy properties with the money from the other properties. So you're not necessarily investing as much of your own capital into it. But we added our younger brother and his wife on our last transaction. So now we have a team of 6 on the 10th property, and they've got a buy-in option for the rest of them. So yeah, it's been fun. It's moved really quick. Like, we've only been doing this for 3 years. So,
and all your properties are in St. Louis Park?
Yeah, they're all within about a mile. That was pretty intentional. We talked so my mentor is Jim Rubin. He owns Mint Properties LLC, and they own probably, I think they still have like 400 or 500 units over by St. Thomas. And then they own, he owns, I think he's up to like 1,500 in Whittier. So he owns like half of the neighborhood. And that was one of his things. He's like, if you're going to start buying property, like, you don't buy stuff in like Woodbury and then buy stuff in, Maple Grove, and then it's like, you're going to be driving all over eternity when something breaks, and you're going to have to find contractors all over town. Right. He's like, just buy them close. Like, so now it's like, okay, we have fall cleanup in 3 weeks, and it's like, we can do all the gutters and all the furnace filters and all the, like, in one day, 10 properties. Cause they're all, you do a map and I just go back home, and they're the closest one is 12 minutes from my house, and the furthest is 16 probably. So it's like super slick. And then the other thing about that is we know the market way better now. So I know all the prices better. I know all the rents better. I know how much every project's going to cost in that specific area based on what my contractors are going to say about the drive time for them, also like the pain of the inspections and all that kind of stuff. I know what my bids are going to come back at. So the ability to make decisions quickly is much easier now.
Yeah, and that's, getting back to, trying to keep things as tight as possible to get to mastery more quickly. That's the ability to do that. If you're looking at properties, one in every suburb, you're not going to know the market as well. You're chasing people all over the place. Certain vendors might only work in certain territories. But if you can just double down on an area that you're really familiar with and is very convenient for you, the ability to grow that a lot faster. It may take time at the beginning, but then all of a sudden it just blows up in a great way because you know the market and it's your sweet spot.
Well, yeah, the other kicker too is we're probably, potentially we're the largest private owner of single family homes in the city. Like there's a lot of apartment complexes and things like that, and they have their own little markets. But if people are looking for a single family, we've had people, we're on Instagram. We have all sorts of other things where feelers we're putting out in that world where you can get affiliate, you can make affiliate money, you can get free stuff, you can get all sorts, because we do these big remodels, right? We get people on Instagram that reach out and they're like, you got anything coming up? I'm looking in St. Louis Park. And it's like, because they know we are in St. Louis Park, and we're like the go-to people. We have signs now that we put out front so people can call us if they want to know something about that property. We've rented 2 properties literally off of Instagram without even putting them on the market, just because our presence is known now there. So yeah, it's like the right size. It's a big enough city. It's close enough to Minneapolis, but it's not like too big where I don't know who's going to show up for my inspection.
What other stuff do you have in the fire here in terms of income and different streams coming your way?
Yeah, I've started researching. I'm guessing when we're talking about financial freedom, do you know what FIRE is?
Yep.
Yeah, so that I researched the heck out of that community. So I've gotten a much better feel for like even things like budgeting, family budgeting, and I've started to look into how they do stuff on the stock market. So I have investments there, kind of like a financial freedom type brokerage fund that I'm just funding right now, with a blend of index funds. A little bit freaked out with what's going on right now. Who knows where it's going, but I like that I have better control over my real estate. And then obviously through EXP, I've got the stock investment there. So that's been probably my best returner in 2020, just because my blended price is on 6,000 shares, like around $9, I think. And it's up to, I think it was down 39 maybe today. So it's up 4-ish, it's up 4 to 4.5 times this year, which when these numbers get big, and I'm buying it at a discount, it starts to be a big number pretty quickly, along with my Icon stock that I got gifted back this year and last year as well. So that's restricted. And then revenue share as well. So I've obviously, because I have 9 agents on my team, I have 2 other teams that are on my downline that I like support and help. So yeah, I'm making a decent chunk of cash, nothing to scoff at on revenue share, which is pretty nifty. So yeah, I kind of have like a lot of different feelers. They're all really real estate related other than the stock market. So
yeah. And I think that's the key. I've talked with other people where, you can have, a dry cleaning business. You can have, a Christmas tree farming business or something like that. But when you're in real estate, it's easy to just kind of double down because you already have the knowledge, you already have the connections, you already have those vendor relationships. And so you can just keep, filling up one bucket, moving to the next. And if you look at all your buckets, you're pretty successful in each bucket. And yet if you look at where you're at 3 years ago in those buckets to now, there's a significant amount of growth. And let's just use a nice clean number of, let's just say, 10,000 in each bucket. Well, all of a sudden each of those goes to 20,000. Well, now you've just significantly grown your income or significantly grown your savings. And so those little things in 5 or 6 buckets really add up to one big bucket. And you can just keep adding more buckets or just keep filling up the buckets you have bigger.
For sure. And real estate's like the interesting one because it's got so many factors working for you and not that many working against you. So like the rental thing, it's like, okay, the market in St. Louis Park is probably up 10% this year. So we own 10 homes, probably 3.5 million in value. Well, now it's 3.85. So me and my older brother just split $175,000 in equity just by having a house, literally doing nothing else. If they were sitting empty, it would have been the same thing. Then you've got, rents coming in. So it's like, when I'm talking stock, I talk, okay, equity appreciation is like a stock's value going up. The rent that we get in income from the properties is like a dividend. But then there's all these other factors too, because you've got, like, just by owning it, I can say I make less money. It's the biggest tax loophole in the history of the United States. Like, you get depreciation, you get to, I did a big remodel project. So then we code things different ways based on how we are supposed to do that with the tax code. And then all of a sudden it spits out and says, like, you lost 80 grand. And I'm like, it doesn't look like I lost 80 grand, but it counts to lose 80 grand. So there's all these things working for real estate in terms of rentals. That, like you said, I mean, it can double, triple, and I have leverage too. So I only, I'm only into them for a certain amount of money. So the bank's essentially, I mean, in this case, the bank is financing 2.5 million of it. But instead of me only seeing, on my $1 million, only seeing the 10% appreciation, I'm seeing it on the whole 3.5 million, because there's like a 3x leverage, essentially, like a stock would have. So yeah, the risk of it the rewards are so much greater than the risk on it. One funny thing though that I didn't mention is we are about to inherit, kind of, and buy out a birdseed company from my father-in-law, who passed away about 6 months ago. So me, my wife, and her two sisters and their husbands are planning to run a birdseed distribution company. So that'll be fun.
Interesting. So now you do get to branch out to another industry.
Yep.
So what advice would you give to somebody, either maybe they're new into real estate and they're looking at how do I grow into either production as a solo agent, or maybe hiring that first assistant or starting a team, or maybe somebody on the rental side, I don't really know where to start. How do I get started? What advice would you give for those folks?
I'd say on the real estate representation side of things, I tell everyone who's new, join a team. And I don't just say that because I run a team. I literally started on a team. It's so hard to break into this industry as a solo agent, and people have done it. But you look at the numbers of, like, 85% of agents don't renew their license after 2 years, and you're like, there's such a high failure rate. So your chances of success by yourself are not nearly as good. Like, give up a bunch of your commission. It literally doesn't matter when you're early on. Just getting those at bats and getting transactions under your belt is what matters. And then
it's kind of like education, right? I mean,
it is.
It's you're paying money to go to college to be able to learn something. It's the same thing here. You're paying money to a team to be able to take advantage of all the learning that they have and all the systems that they have, so you don't have to go at it alone.
Exactly. And you get transactions so much faster. So it's like, you get those at bats, maybe a year or two down the road, you decide, I feel like I know this well enough, and you want to break off on your own and hire an assistant, or you want to start your own team, whatever that is. But I say join a team. The other thing I say to people is, like, get organized, have a database. Like, most agents don't have a business plan. They don't have a CRM. They have none of that stuff. So I'm like, get a business plan, create a weekly checklist to make sure you're going to hit that business plan. So break down everything you're going to do in your business plan and stick to it. Get organized and follow up with your friends. Like, be nice, be friendly. And that will, that's the first step to getting transactions. And then after that, it's like you say, the word mastery. It's like, learn houses, like, understand how houses work, learn the real estate market, learn new construction, whatever the heck you want to, like, really get into, really dig in and learn that, so that it's not just your friends, liking to be around you. It's your friends like to be around you, but they also want to ask you about the electrical panel and, like, what is going on there, right? Like, all of that stuff, like, have a good network of people for that. And then on the rental side, I would say the biggest thing to getting started is figuring out what your strategy is, which could be, I have 3% down, I'm 3.5% down, I'm going to do an FHA duplex and house hack, right? Like, that could be a strategy. And then, and from, like, your initial strategy, make sure you have something long-term. Like, we want to buy in St. Louis Park. So our first step is to buy a house in St. Louis Park, and then let's figure out the rest from there. But, like, if you don't have a plan for what style of property you're trying to get into, or what type of situation you're trying to get into, you're just going to run yourself ragged. And then I would say that the other thing that I think most people get hung up on is they just don't jump in and do it. Most people that I represent are like, well, I talked to my friend yesterday and they think this. And I'm like, this is not you buying a house for yourself. You are buying an investment property. So if you're going to make the decision based on how you feel or the emotions of it, like, I'm going to tell you, you're doing it wrong. Right? Like, if you're going to do it, you just have to do it. Like, so just, if you have the money and you're pre-approved and you're trying to buy rental property and you have a plan, this is my target property, and it is, you find it off market or it's on the market or whatever, like, make an offer. Don't pitter patter and analyze it to death. Like, the only way you're going to get in is just by taking the leap. And once
Right.
you
At
do
some
that,
point, you can plan, and it's, maybe you kind of just leaped in a little bit before planning at the beginning, and yet you figured it out. And so you can have the best plan. At some point, you're going to have to take the risk, because I talk to lots of agents, and so many of them say, I've always wanted to get into investments. It's like, well, you have all the knowledge, you have all the tools and resources at your fingertips, you have great vendor relationships. The thing that's missing is just taking the leap, and you're going to have to dive in and learn to swim at some point in time, and you won't get better at swimming until you get in the water.
Exactly. That's 100% it. That's a great analogy. And I think it is funny because I talk to a lot of agents, same thing. They're like, man, you own 10 rental properties. Like, how'd you get there? I'm like, I just jumped in and did one. And then I figured out, like, okay, we could actually do really well, like moving money from property to property and just continuing to buy them. And if we sit in this nice little niche of properties, we're going to do just fine. So I think that's usually the advice I give people. I'm like, figure out what you want and then do it. Just do it. Jump in. You're approved. Make a move.
Great. All right, AJ, anything else that you've got that you want to share in terms of your financial journey and where you're headed?
I don't think so. It's always changing for me too. I'm always trying to figure out what's next. But yeah, I think once you get to this point, it's more about trying to figure out your time than anything. So I've been really focusing on, maximizing the important things that I need to get done in the day, and then figure out where I can, hand time off to other people. That's been a big thing for me in the last 6 months. So
yeah. All right.
Last
thing, is there anything that you want to plug while we're on here? You've got your real estate team. You've got your homes in St. Louis Park. Anything you want to plug if anybody watching this wants to reach out to you?
I don't know. I guess, the Advisory Realty Group, I think we're the Advisory MN on Instagram's our handle. Check out the Honey Brothers on Instagram. It's pretty cool. We do some really unique things to our properties. So yeah, I'll just plug our social media, and we love interacting with people on there. So comment, DM us, whatever.
All right. Thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, man.